There we go. Wonderful. Our first Finnposium of the winter here and of the year. I'm glad to see so many people joining us already from everywhere. I always go through the list here really quick and see where people are joining. I see from Florida, Eva. It's good to see Eva from Florida. Helena Halmari, good to see you too. Wow, this is great. We've got a really robust crew here today, Minia.
Oh, is that right?
We
Wow.
do. We've got Michiganders in here. We've got some
That's
people from
excellent.
Copper
Please,
Country.
please feel free to chime into the chat. Yes, hi Phyllis, where you're calling in from. I think Anna would love to see that. She is in Helsinki at the museum in the Ateneum
Yes,
currently,
yes.
after hours.
Okay. Well,
That's fine. Yeah, she's busy and we're glad that she's here. So let's get started. We have about 130 people on online and ready to start. So let's go ahead and get started. So hyvää päivää kaikille kuuntelijoille ympäri maailmaa. Tervetuloa Finlandia Foundation Nationalin puolesta talven ensimmäiseen Finnposiumiin. On ilo toivottaa teidät kaikki tervetulleiksi tänään keskustelemaan yhdestä suomalaisen taiteen tämän hetken suosituimmista aiheista Yhdysvalloissa sekä yhdestä Suomen merkittävimmistä taiteilijoista Helene Schjerfbeckistä. God dag till alla lyssnare runt om i världen. På uppdrag av Finlandia Foundation National, välkomna till vinterns första Finnposium. Det är ett nöje att välkomna er alla idag till ett samtal om ett av de mest aktuella och populära ämnena inom finsk konst i USA samt en av Finlands mest betydelsefulla konstnärer, Helene Schjerfbeck. And greetings to all of our listeners from around the world, and welcome to our first Finnposium of this winter season 2026. It is nice to have you all here listening today to talk about one of the most popular topics in Finnish art in the United States right now, and one of Finland's most prolific artists, Helene Schjerfbeck. My name's Tommy Flanagan. I'm the executive director of Finlandia Foundation. Our Finnposium events like this today offer a platform for Finns, Finnish Americans, and friends to highlight interesting and important topics from all over Finnish America and Finland. From film discussions and historical topics to culinary excursions and art discussions, Finnposium always offers us a chance to learn something new. And this session is no exception. Today, we will be recording this session and it will be made available on YouTube after the conversation. Making art history, Helene Schjerfbeck and the rise of Finnish women artists is today's topic, and it couldn't align better with our own core values here at FFN. In addition to heritage and history, we also value art, culture, and society and strive to build bridges between modern Finland and the United States. This fall, for the first time ever, as you've heard and will hear, this solo exhibit of a Finnish artist was opened at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. And FFN was honored to serve as a collaborating partner at this celebration in conjunction with Finnish independence, together with the Consulate General of Finland in New York. It was a great event for us. It was a great time, and it was wonderful to be a part of this really high moment for Finnish culture in the United States and indeed the world. Although those in the Finnish art field would maybe beg to differ, it feels like a coming out in a way for Helene Schjerfbeck on the international stage, and many people around the world are getting to know her maybe for the first time. Many in Finnish America might be asking, who is Helene Schjerfbeck? Who was she? And we're thrilled to be able to bring this program to you today to talking with perhaps the foremost expert on that topic. Anu Utriainen is chief curator at the Ateneum Art Museum, Finnish National Gallery, and she has been a member of various curatorial committees for the Ateneum exhibitions and participated in major collections projects such as Stories of Finnish Art, Urban Encounters, The Question of Time, and others. She has served as a curator and project leader of several exhibitions and research projects at the Ateneum in Finland and abroad. For example, the Kallen Kallela, Klimt and Wien in 25 and 26, Picturing Finland, Akseli Kallen Kallela 24 to 25 at the Belvedere Art Museum in Vienna, Austria, and the Modern Woman Tour, which was exhibited in 7 cities around the world, starting in New York in 2017. She previously served as senior researcher and keeper of prints and drawings at the Ateneum and edited many of the museum's collections and exhibitions publications. Anu Utriainen specializes in Finnish art of the 20th century, including work on paper and sculpture. So, to say we have an expert here would be an understatement. Thank you, Anu, for being here. It's a pleasure and an honor. And I'll turn it over to you to talk today about Helene Schjerfbeck. Kiitos.
Kiitos, Thomas, and thank you. Wow, you are really speaking very well Finnish and also Swedish. I'm very taken by that. And thank you for inviting me today to tell you about Finnish art and Finnish women artists, especially, and of course, Helene Schjerfbeck in the focus. I'm really glad, and it's an honor to be here today. So thank you. I will start with some memories from New York. As mentioned, we have just opened recently at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, the Helene Schjerfbeck exhibition, and it's the first time we are showing her art in New York in this scale. The show itself there is curated by Dita Amory, who is curator of the Lehman Gallery at the Met, and our museum director, Anna-Maria von Bunstorp, has acted as co-curator in the project. And my role here has been more of a specialist of Schjerfbeck's art, consulting and giving context and knowledge of Finnish art history, and history in general. Working together with Dita and also patron Elsa Brulé, who has very generously financed the project at the Met. So we attended, of course, the opening ceremonies with the Ateneum team in December. And here in the photo in the middle, we are at the grand opening gala with our director, Anna-Maria, second from the left, and Director General of the Finnish National Gallery, Kimmo Levä, with other colleagues from marketing and coordination. It was a really grand week and something to remember by. Absolutely fantastic. Also, another thing which is very fantastic, of course, is that it has really gained a lot of success. There's been lots of people, lots of visitors every week. And also we are hugely proud about the extensive media coverage. For example, here, New York Times, the Vogue, Wall Street Journal, the New Yorker, and many others have really written fantastic articles about the exhibition. So for us, this visibility is absolutely paramount, since New York is maybe the hugest art scene in the world, and Met, one of the biggest art museums, the most important art museums in the world. So the impact is not only showing actually a great Finnish artist woman, Helene Schjerfbeck, or Finnish art, but it's also benefiting our country image and brand as a Nordic democracy and welfare society, which has given everyone, also women at the turn of the 20th century already, a possibility to build up a career as professional artists despite gender. So this is really important also in this exhibition. And just a few words about the Ateneum Art Museum, where I work with my colleagues. And also Helene Schjerfbeck has been studying here and also teaching as an art teacher. So the Ateneum in the picture here, it's the oldest and biggest art museum in Finland, and it was established by the Finnish Art Society in the mid-19th century. And the building itself opened its doors in 1888 to the public. And first it housed not only the collections and the museum, but also these two art schools. The drawing school, where Helene Schjerfbeck was really the teacher of painting, and a bit later worked then as a teacher overall in the painting class. But also it housed the School of Applied Arts. So it was a museum, the Art Society, the home of the Art Society, and also home of these two art schools. So the drawing school actually offered basic art education to boys and girls alike. And as the country's first artists began their work here, so much was expected of them, and there was a great pressure on them. After all, the country wanted its own artists who would record its landscape, people, and historical events in an unforgettable moment. So Helene Schjerfbeck belongs to this first wave of artists who were educated in this building as well. Nowadays, the schools operate elsewhere, And since we are the biggest museum in Finland, we are also largely funded by the state, but approximately 1/3 of the income comes today from ticket sales, donations, and other private funding. Especially our exhibitions abroad, like the Schjerfbeck exhibition at the Met, are strongly supported by Jane and Aatos Erkko Foundation, who also have been our main sponsor for this one, as well as in our other venues, which are now on in Europe. But this is not actually the first time we are showing Helene Schjerfbeck's art in the US. She was already one of the artists in the Northern Light exhibition in Brooklyn Museum in 1982. And we have shown Helene Schjerfbeck in New York quite recently in 2017, as also Thomas mentioned, in the independent Visions show at the Scandinavia House. It was actually supposed to be a one-off exhibition, but turned out quite fast to be only the first venue of the extensive Modern Woman tour in 5 countries and actually 8 cities. It was the same spring that Hillary Clinton lost the presidential election and the Me Too project started to spread very rapidly. And suddenly, women's issues were in the focus, not only in America, but in the whole world. And we found ourselves in an unexpected situation where everybody wanted to hear more about Finnish women artists. Also, the legendary Guerrilla Girls had a seminar day in our exhibition then. So here you can see actually all the locations, and even though some of the venues coincided with COVID and closed all exhibitions and museums, we had all over 300,000 visitors for the whole tour. So it was a very big success. Other significant shows in Europe have been the monographic exhibition in the Schien Kunsthalle in Frankfurt, Germany in 2015, and also the monography in the Royal Academy in London in 2019. So Helene Schjerfbeck is not unknown in Europe, quite the opposite today. But the show at the Met really marks a real breakthrough for the first time for her art and publicity. Then I wanted to discuss some of the main issues why women artists are of great interest today in the art scene, but also for the public. The current surge in interest surrounding art by women is a multifaceted phenomenon, driven by evolving art historical methodologies, critical societal shifts, and a deliberate effort to rectify historical omissions. This heightened focus can be understood through 3 interconnected lenses. First one, there's a profound need for parallel stories and rethinking of the traditional canon of modernism. The established art historical narrative has largely been very linear, very Eurocentric and male-dominated, excluding and marginalizing numerous artists, and especially women. The current re-evaluation of women artists aims to construct a more comprehensive and inclusive historical tapestry, acknowledging diverse artistic developments and revealing alternative influences and thematic concerns previously overlooked. Secondly, this re-evaluation directly addresses the over- and misinterpretations and significant gaps in the historical writing of art history. Traditional frameworks often sustained a binary contrasting the dynamic male genius with the fragile artist woman, leading to women artists being relegated to secondary roles or having their contributions minimized. Breaking this modernist framework involves a critical examination of historical biases, questioning the criteria for artistic greatness, and uncovering the systemic barriers women artists faced. And finally, the heightened interest in deeply intertwined with transforming societies and changing paradigms, perspectives, and vantage points. Contemporary societal discourse, influenced by identity politics, post-humanism, post-colonialism, and transnationality, has fundamentally altered how history and culture are approached. These critical frameworks emphasize diversity and challenge previous narratives. Feminist and gender studies provide theoretical tools to investigate and champion women's contributions. With recent social movements like Me Too and the broader cultural imperative to break glass ceilings have created a receptive environment for acknowledging and celebrating women's achievements. Okay, this is actually in the wrong place, but let's see it just very briefly here in between where actually Helene Schjerfbeck was living. I forgot to adjust this edited slide. Anyway, we are now in Helsinki. You see it in the map over here. So she was living in Helsinki, then she moved later on to Hyvinkää over here, just above, and then later on to Ekenees Tammisaari, which is actually now called Raasepori. So this is the area where Helene Schjerfbeck was living in Finland mostly. So just to remind you of the Finnish geography a bit here. But back to Helene Schjerfbeck and her ideas and her life. So this is what Helene Schjerfbeck wrote to her friend Einar Reuter in November 1919. How right you were when you wrote about museum men, critics. They kill everything that is your own, beautiful and alive, and take what is already a success. The little and poor just paint and struggle. They can die unless they love their work. Then they live rather briefly, yet forever. Very kind of a familiar to Helene Schjerfbeck's text in her letters, which I have been reading. So she had a habit of contemplating art, the art world and values of life in letters she wrote to her friends. Often her views were very much pointed. She did not to be labeled as a female artist or artist woman, nor did she like the idea of exhibitions based on gender. There are no exhibitions for men only. Shouldn't art be all that matters, she wrote. So she believed that everything was based on the work of art itself. Only the work had significance. Everything else was irrelevant. At the same time, she set an example for future generations of artists by working and painting as she pleased. This was not given a given possibility, although when a woman took a career in art, she had to make a choice, to give up something and redefine herself. A woman's relationship with family, with property, career, and publicity were different when she was an artist rather than a housewife or clerical worker. Helene Schjerfbeck, she was born in Finland in 1862, when Finland was still a Grand Duchy of Russia. She was the only daughter, with an older brother Magnus, who later became a distinguished architect. Swedish, Finnish, and Russian were spoken in the country, and in Helene's middle-class family, Swedish was the mother tongue. Her early life was marked by many hardships, particularly after her father's business fails and he subsequently died quite early. The most significant event was the severe hip injury at age 4, which left her with a lifelong limp and chronic pain. This was a physical limitation, but rather than hindering her, it may have deepened her introspection and focus on art. Her extraordinary talent was recognized very early, leading to her enrollment in the Finnish Art Society's drawing school at just 11 years old in 1873. Compared to many prominent art academies in Central and Western Europe, for example, the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, only formally admitted women in 1897. Finnish art schools were remarkably open to female students much earlier. Helene Schjerfbeck's enrollment at the age of 11 exemplifies this early integration. While there might have been some segregation in classes like separate life drawing sessions, women were generally proved with access to the same foundational training as men. The art educational environment was conservative, but these early years were very crucial to Helene's later life. She formed strong, lifelong friendships with fellow aspiring women artists like Helena Westermark in the slide here, or Ada Tilén, and especially Maria Wieck. These friendships provided crucial mutual support, intellectual companionship, and a collective strength in navigating a male-dominated art world. This collective agency was fundamental to her individual and collective success. They sought to become exhibiting artists, professional artists, teachers, contributors to the national art scene, and whatever else role they might have come up with. These sisters of the brush, or painter sisters as they called themselves, provided mutual support and intellectual camaraderie, challenging the later narrative of Schjerfbeck as an isolated figure. She was absolutely never really isolated, even though the later art history writing has claimed so. Her early training laid a solid academic foundation, which she later would deconstruct and transform. There were no public collections of art in Finland yet in the 1870s, and exhibitions were infrequent and very small. So art students traveled abroad to continue their studies. Many of them, like Helene Schjerfbeck too, went to study internationally, bringing back new influences and contributing to the modernization of Finnish art. In the mid-18th century, they went to Düsseldorf and Dresden in Germany, and towards the end of the century, at the turn of the 20th century, to Paris, where the private academies like Académie Julian, Académie Colarossi, and Académie Madame Trelat were very popular also among Nordic and Finnish artist students. For many ambitious artists of the late 19th century, Paris, of course, was the undisputed center of the art world. And Schjerfbeck's first journey there was in 1880 was transformative for her later profession as an artist. The freedom, the kind of a feeling of freedom and exposure to new ideas she experienced studying at academies like Trelat and Colarossi, under esteemed painters such as Gustave Courtois were absolutely paramount. This period fostered her cosmopolitan outlook, expanded her network of artistic peers from across Europe, and solidified her determination to pursue an international career, moving beyond the confines of Finnish art circles. Schjerfbeck's early works were often strategically chosen to secure travel grants, essential for an aspiring artist from her background. Her debut piece, Wounded Warrior in the Snow, on the left here, is an academic history painting, but it served its purpose. While technically proficient and showing an emerging naturalist approach, an idealized depiction of common folk, as in Boy Feeding His Little Sister, was met with some criticism in Finland, foreshadowing her later challenges with conservative tastes. This early period demonstrates her ambition and willingness to tackle challenging subjects. Schjerfbeck spent also significant time in Brittany, particularly in Pontauban and other parts of the Finistère. Here she fully embraced the tenets of naturalism, depicting the everyday lives of the local people with an unsentimental gaze. Other works from this period capture similarly the rugged beauty and lives of the Breton people, showcasing her commitment to observing and portraying reality directly. One of Schjerfbeck's close friends was also the Austrian painter Marianne Prindelsberger, or later Stokes after marrying British painter Adrian Stokes. Marianne is painted here with another student friend from Paris, the Danish Anna Anker. Schjerfbeck stays in the Cornish fishing town of St. Ives with her friends. Marianne and Adrian were absolutely pivotal. Influenced by the unique light and landscape, she began to experiment more radically with technique and form. The most significant work from this period is The Convalescent. With its innovative technique, particularly the scraping of paint and its profound psychological depth. While initially met with mixed reactions in Finland for being too modern, this painting marks a clear transition towards a more symbolist influenced expression. focusing on inwardness and emotional rather than purely external reality. It signaled her departure from strict naturalism towards a more personal and modern vision. The 1980s marked a crucial transitional phase. Schjerfbeck undertook significant travels to St. Petersburg, to Vienna, and Florence to copy old master paintings for the Finnish Art Society. This experience, particularly encountering early Renaissance frescoes in Italy, profoundly influenced her. She began to move away from mimetic representation, developing a style characterized by the simplification of form and non-mimetic use of color. This engagement with art history provided a foundation for her later modernist innovations, showing a dialogue between tradition and radical new approaches. Schjerfbeck was dissatisfied with her teaching position and her declining health, leading to her resignation from the Ateneum, from the drawing school at the Ateneum. She moved to a little town, Hyvinkää, which was shown on the map, with her mother as a deliberate choice to seek a quieter life, allowing her to focus entirely on her art without the pressures of teaching or urban life. Despite her relative isolation, she remained connected to the art world and even influenced a younger generation of Finnish artists, demonstrating her quiet but significant impact. Schjerfbeck's modest bedroom studio in Hyvinkää became a profoundly important place. It was a room of her own, as also Virginia Woolf was writing about. Far from being a symbol of isolation, this space became a crucible for intense artistic experimentation and introspection. Here she owned her distinctive style of radical reduction, limited color palettes, and focus on essential forms. This period in Hyvinkää saw Schjerfbeck synthesize various artistic impulses into a cohesive and unique modernist language. Her renewed interest in modernist ideas, her exploration of watercolors and gouache, and a significant influence from Japanese art, the woodblock print art, which further encouraged simplified forms and bold compositions. Works like these, the costume picture and the woodcutter, exemplify this period, showcasing her ability to distill figures to their essential elements, imbued with emotional intensity and a stark, almost abstract quality. The year 1912 marks a period of artistic renaissance for Schjerfbeck, where her distinctive modernist style fully blossomed with renewed confidence and vigor. Self-portraits from this era, such as Self-Portrait, Black Background from 1915, or the Self-Portrait with Red Spot, actually not in this slide here, emphasizes that these are far more than just mere likenesses. They are profound psychological explorations, a continuous dialogue with herself, and visual diary of her inner state and evolving artistic identity. This time also introduces two crucial figures who were instrumental in bringing Schjerfbeck's work into wider recognition: the art dealer Gösta Stenman and the art critic Einar Reuter, who later became her biographer also. Their foresight is recognizing her genius in a very new, different way than before, and their tireless efforts in promoting her art was absolutely essential. They helped navigate the complexities of the art market, ensuring her work that reached a broader audience and generated demand, even as Schjerfbeck herself preferred a more secluded life. Following her mother's death and her move to Tammisaari, Ekenäs, in the western part of the coastline, Schjerfbeck continued her relentless artistic production. It is time for Helene's intellectual curiosity, how she drew inspiration from a diverse range of sources, including books, magazines, fashion periodicals, and art history. Gösta Sterman and the art critic Einar Reuter Gösta Sterman and Einar Reuter helped really her kind of a comeback of the kind of a lonely time in Hyvinkää, and really putting herself in a new way into the center of the Finnish art scene, also showing her work in the Ateneum for the first time as a monography exhibition, which marked also kind of a comeback for her as a professional artist. Also, this time is a time when Helene delves deeply into compelling portraits of contemporary women, the New Woman, as it was called, which captured the essence of modern life and fashion, particularly in the 1920s and 1930s. She had a very keen interest in contemporary fashion, often using images from magazines, inspiration, and getting inspiration from them. Showing here. Her subjects frequently embodying really the new woman archetype, independent, stylish, and often with bobbed hair, modern clothing, and a direct contemplative gaze, are not mere models but psychological studies. Schjerfbeck used fashion not just as an aesthetic detail, but also as a powerful signifier of female identity in a rapidly changing world, chronicling the quiet strength and introspection of these modern figures. And finally, but not least at all, and perhaps the most powerful period in her oeuvre, was the extraordinary series of self-portraits Schjerfbeck created in her final years while living in Saltsjöbaden in Sweden. They are not about vanity, but about an unflinching confrontation with mortality, the essence of being, and the very act of painting itself. Works like these from the 1940s and her final, almost skeletal self-portrait from 1945 are presented as profound meditations of life's end. They are raw with abstract quality and stripped-down forms, conveyed through minimal brush strokes or just a pencil. These self-portraits are a testament to her lifelong dedication to self-analysis through art, serving as a powerful commentary on the genre itself and the artist's enduring spirit, often drawing comparisons to the raw emotional intensity found in the late works of Edvard Munch, the Norwegian painter Edvard Munch. And if you are really interested in Helene Schjerfbeck's art and life, I should recommend warmly this biography written by my colleague here at the Ateneum, Maria Lahelma, Helene Schjerfbeck, An Artist's Life. It can be found online on our Finnish National Gallery research site. So I warmly recommend to look at this biography. It's the first one published in English, but we don't have it in print. It's only as a PDF online, but it's really important as the first monography of her since 1957, which was written by Einar Reuter. And in the Reuter's book, he really emphasized Helene Schjerfbeck in the kind of the narrative of the modernist time, where the woman artist had to be fragile, had to be kind of a suffering and lonely person. So this has also been commonly seen as Helene Schjerfbeck's identity and personality as an artist. But when you think about her whole production, around 1,000 works of art, so no fragile person would ever have been able to make such a career. So Maria Lahelma is now opening a totally new perspective as a very strong, very kind of a professional artist who never gave up and really dedicated her whole life to being a professional artist. So I really warmly recommend this biography. So thank you. This was actually my presentation today. So I am also now open for questions if you have any.
Wonderful work. Kiitos paljon, Anu. That was really interesting information and such a great introduction, I think, for many people who might not have known much about Schjerfbeck's history or the influence of her work. So we really thank you for taking the time to do that. Minea, I think, already had a list of questions potentially. She's been very interested in this, of course, having been to the exhibit yourself. Minea, maybe you can talk about that. But yeah, any questions that you had, Minea?
I had one question I'd like to start with, and then we have several from the
Yes.
audience. But Anu, in your words, why, what does it mean to have Helene Schjerfbeck at the Met in New York? What is the significance of that for Finland, for Finnish Americans?
Well, I think it's something that we have never done before. So it's it's of course a huge thing for us, and the visibility really has been unbelievable. I think it's been kind of a surprise even for the Met colleagues that all these magazines, all these newspapers have written so much about her, and it's really a positive reviews all over. Also, magazines that are not kind of in the art scene. It's like the Wall Street Journal, the Vogue, and others, which the New Yorker, New York Times. So they are not only art magazines, which would be kind of the obvious choice. So kind of her visibility and the knowledge of her art, also of the Finnish art, kind of the possibilities that the Finnish society has given to women artists already 100 years ago. I think these are the most important issues here. And surely it also helps the contemporary Finnish artists to get more visibility in New York. Actually, there are some exhibitions going on right now of Finnish contemporary artists too. So I hope it's really benefiting everyone. And as I said in the beginning of my talk, I said about the kind of the country brand of Finland. So we wish this will also be helpful in that context.
Yeah, what a moment for Finland. I mean, and Schjerfbeck is a part of it right now. I mean, not to bring it all into one social media sort of thing here, but with Pamela Anderson talking about Finland. Finland is the happiest
Yeah.
country. Finland and NATO across the board, and to have Schjerfbeck bring, I mean, to have Finland really on a world stage. That is simply because of the arts, right? It's huge for Finland. I think for Finnish Americans as well to sort of broaden our understanding of our Finnish heritage as well. So I think that's exactly right. And you already mentioned, Anu, and we've seen in Vogue and in New York Times and in all kinds of publications have really picked up on this. There was one question in the chat here that wanted to know your opinion about, and I don't know if I haven't read the article, but they're referencing an article from the New York Times that classified Schjerfbeck as Nordic noir and was wondering what your thoughts on that classification might be.
Well, I think it was quite hilarious because that's exactly how I also interpret her art. It's not always easy. It can really evoke emotions and really these self-portraits from her later period when she had already turned 70. So actually we know of around 40, a bit more than 40 self-portraits are known, and over half of these 40 self-portraits, nearly two-thirds, are from her kind of late years, from the years that she had already turned 70, because actually Gösta Stenman was the one who kind of commissioned them from her. So she started making them in a series. So these late self-portraits can be like looked side by side with Rembrandt and these great masters who also made same kind of series of self-portraits. But no other woman has done that really
Mm.
looking at herself so unsentimentally and really kind of a raw look, and putting this on canvas, looking at herself dying. She was really dying when she was making this, so she knew she would die. So it's really something extraordinary. But the Nordic noir, I don't really know. I don't actually. I have not read this specific article. I only saw the headline, but I would like to read it and what they really thought, who wrote this article, what they thought. But the Nordic noir, maybe it's also a brand.
Yeah.
We are not that noir all the time.
Right.
Surely Helene Schjerfbeck's life was quite modest. She was living in these small, modest houses Hyvinkää in Ekenäs, Tammisaari, and Finland was kind of a poor country, and we didn't have so many possibilities for people to travel. She traveled when she was a student, but she never traveled again later on abroad. So she was staying in Finland. So maybe her perspective to life was a bit severe. She was really staying a lot in the house, painting. She did have friends and guests coming, but she did not actually go out that much. So, and she was complaining a lot when I was reading her letters. She is complaining a lot. She's never kind of happy. And she's always looking at herself kind of with the feeling that she has not really achieved what she was trying to achieve. And sometimes she's very happy and she's very glad and she's very happy with what she's done. So it was kind of ups and downs all the time. So maybe this insecurity might be one reason for her kind of not so positive attitude towards life. Of course, she had the pains, she had the ailments, she had the hip problem, but I don't think we should read her art through all that. It's more a very a strong character who really dedicates her life to making art, really being interested all the phenomena of the modern time. She was really interested in fashion, and she had her clothes made after French fashion magazines. So she was really kind of keen on life in that sense. So she had these two sides. She has the dark side and she has the elegant, fashionable side, and all that. So maybe this Nordic noir touches something of this.
Yeah,
That's
for
just
sure.
my guessing how
Yeah.
it could be.
It's also a fun headline that makes you want to read the
Of
article,
course.
right? So of course,
we all know
there's that.
the kind of the murder series from Denmark and Sweden of
Yeah.
the Nordic noir. So it's very clever.
For sure.
Yeah.
I want to combine two questions if I could here because they're sort of the similar ones. We just got a comment in here from Jean Kemppainen about her father died when she was young. She's wondering how was she able to afford becoming a student in the art museum is the one question. And we had a similar question about her mother. Someone asked here, what was the role of Helene's mother at her early art education and her brother's architecture career? So a little more on the family, the father dying young,
Well,
her mother's role.
yeah. Well, she was living with her mother until the mother died nearly her whole life. So the mother was mostly kind of giving support to Magnus Schjerfbeck, who became architect because he was the son of the family at the time. When you were an unmarried woman, the place would be at home helping your elderly parents. So it was nothing new and nothing uncommon. Of course, for Helen, it was not easy, and she's often complaining about housework and how the mother wants her to do this and that, and she would only want to paint. So that's maybe one thing. But of course, they had financial problems. The father dies, and also they had lost other children. So there were more children, or they should have been more children. But at the time, also children were dying quite often. So there was a great sorrow in the family because of the other dead children, and the mother was kind of melancholy person and not giving support to Helen that much as maybe she should have needed. So had the father not died, maybe it would have been different. But she had to struggle to be able to become a student. But she got help from outside the family, from the teachers and from other cultural figures who were really seeing and wanting her to make an artistic career. But we had this very large and extensive grant system. So when you get a place in the art school, you got these grants and you could get these stipends and you could go abroad with these and you could live even one whole year with one grant money. So they were big money. But that all only was for the time that they were studying. When you became or was out of the school, you had to cope for yourself. So being a professional artist as a woman, even though you had the same education as men, it was complex.
Yeah,
She
sounds
really
like it.
decided that that's what she wants to do, and she did it,
Mm,
even though she had all the all the problems with health, with money, with
yeah.
everything, and the
It sounds
mother
like
as well, complaining.
even some good support for the arts education even back then in Finland. So you could see some sort of legacy of arts education even in this story. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. But art education was an essential part of building up the cultural life in Finland. We did not
Hmm.
have actually a cultural life. It had to be
Hmm.
built up in the mid 19th century. So establishing the Finnish Art Society in 1846 and other same kind of societies in literature, music, and all that. So they were like these kind of the basic stones on which everything else was then built. And the artists were really seen important figures in this project, also women. And museums were purchasing and artists were donating their works to the museum from the start, so that we could have a collection, so that people could come and see art. Anybody could come and see art, and that was really a method of building a Finnish national society. So art and artists were really, really important in that project. Also women.
Yeah, wonderful.
I love that. We have a question from one of our board members who's interested in history. What impact did world historical events like World War I or the Finnish Civil War have on Schjerfbeck's work?
Um, a lot of many things. Of course, she had to be evacuated. Also, the Second World War. So she was living through all these wars, and she even saw victims of the war. She saw people who were in the concentration camps, and she was also depicting these victims. And so she was in Ekenes. She was living in the spring 1918 when we had the civil war. It was horrible. It was brutal, and it really left a huge scar into the society and people. And it was really dividing people into so the reds and the whites, and that can actually still be seen when you go and ask somebody here now on which side was your family. So people still know on which side the
Yeah.
families have been. So it was a huge disaster and catastrophe, and lots of violence, lots of misery. And Helen did not suffer kind of in person, but she had to move places, she had to flee, she had to be evacuated. And finally, of course, she was evacuated to Sweden, to Stockholm, where she also then died during the Second World War. So, of course, the wars have affected every artist and everybody here. But as an upper middle class Swedish speaking woman artist, she was not, of course, taking part in any of the actions of war. So she was also kind of a victim of the wars in that sense.
And it must have interrupted her process as well to have been relocated and moved around.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And there was
Yeah.
lack of material, there was lack of everything, and life was really, really hard for her too.
Yeah. I mean, even
And
those
she,
divisions you talk about on, people to this day having which side of sort of the Civil War families were on, and that also translated into the Finnish American community at the time as well. So you're certainly right that that would have reached into the arts, reached into society generally, into the Finnish identity. So that's most certainly evident in her work, certainly.
and also one thing that affected her work a lot is that, of course, she never married. She was a single, independent woman in that sense, but she was very, very much deeply in love at one point when she was young, and she was staying in St. Ives and in France. We are not sure. She even got engaged, but we are not totally sure who this loved one was. But it perhaps has been a Swedish painter, Otto Hagborg, but this is not for certain. But this is kind of one possibility. But then this man's family, they thought that she had tuberculosis because she had the hip problem. So they decided that this marriage cannot happen. And then the engagement was then off, and she was very miserable after that. Another romance kind of was, which never really happened in reality, but it was for her a very big thing was the friendship with Einar Reuter, one of the two men that she met in Hyvinkää in the 1910s. They never had a real romance in the flesh, if you can say so, but they stayed good friends. And also something happened, and then Einar Reuter got engaged with another woman, which nearly destroyed Helen. She was absolutely miserable after that, and it was a really bad time for her. But then she recovered, and the friendship stayed until she died. So it was a very important figure in Reuter, in kind of a romantic and also in the role of a very dear friend for her for the rest of her life. But really, yes, these two kind of bad experiences with romances have affected her as well. And you can really see that this process in her paintings, especially in the paintings when she was living in Ekenäs. So you can really see the sorrow. Some of the paintings even are named or titled Sorrow. So she was working the sorrow through with painting.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I mean, it sort of sounds like, yeah, there was a lot of struggle. And this is something I think that informs a lot of art, right? Struggles that people go through. That, I mean, you sort of see that happening. There's two questions here about her relationships. Let's see if I can fuse them together a little bit, because it seems like there were many parts of her life that were quite lonely, quite sort of removed maybe from other connection. But one of the questions about if she had connections to other Nordic women artists, such as Norwegian artists Harriet Baker, I don't know the name, I'm sorry about that, and Kitty Kieland.
Harriet Baker.
And then just generally about her social and artistic connections more broadly with other musicians or poets or any other creatives in a way.
Not really, no. I think Gösta Stenman was the kind of the key figure, because he brought paintings, he brought magazines, he sometimes also guests to see her, and he really kind of gave the world to Helen, who was staying mostly at her atelier home in Hyvinkää and then in Tammisaari. About the friendships, I'm not sure. I don't think she had a personal connection to Harriet Backer or anyone else, but she was really, as they had this circle of artists from the Nordics when she was studying in France. So Annie Anker, for example, the Danish, but she died quite early. So one of those important friends was Marianne Breitersberger Stokes for a longer time. But these these friends from her youth, like Helena Westermark, especially Maria Wieck, also Anna Tille, and these three women were the closest friends that she had. And also she had, of course, relations and family, her mother's cousins, everyone. And so she had a circle of people around her, but she was mostly rather staying at home than going anywhere.
Yeah.
Ellen Teslev was her pupil, yes, at the art school here in the Ateneum. But they were never really friends. But of course, they knew each other. Yes. Everybody knew each other. Everybody, like, it was a very small circle of people in the artistic life. So everybody, of course, knew each other. But being a friend was maybe another thing for her. She was not such a kind of a people's person in that sense.
Yeah, interesting. There was one question earlier somewhere in the thread about the letters that you mentioned, right? The letters back and forth and her own. Where are those located or archived? Or how do you have access to those, and where can people sort of learn more?
Some of them are in public archives, like in Turku University, and also some of them here, but also the family, Magnus Schjerfbeck's family. He had children who have the archives still today as a part of them. So there's no like one place where you can can read the letters. Unfortunately, we don't have many letters anymore that she had. She was writing letters to Maria Wijk, one of the artist friends, and these have been preserved, all the letters she wrote to Maria Wijk, but not the letters that Maria Wijk wrote to her. So there's lots of gaps here, so we don't really know everything. But there are lots of letters that we can read in the public archives and libraries in Finland, in Helsinki and Turku especially. So that's not a problem. And it's very interesting to read them because she was really a character. And I always say that if I had met her, I would have liked to meet her. But if I had really met her in person, I'm sure I would not have liked her as a person. She's not a very likable. She's a great artist, but not a very easy person.
Well, thank you, Anu, for being here today. There's a lot of wonderful comments. People have enjoyed this presentation. Just quickly, last question. You're actually in the Ateneum, and I'm not sure if all of our audience today has had a chance to visit. And you just had a very successful show that's coming down with Gallen Kallela and Klimt. Can you just introduce us to the Ateneum and a little bit about its role in Finnish art?
Oh, that's a big question. Yes, well, so how to put it in short? So we are showing in our permanent exhibition, the collection display is about the collection of Finnish art, mostly. We are in 3 stories, a big building. So two first stories about the collection and Finnish art, and the 3rd floor is for exhibitions, and we are changing exhibitions twice a year. The one that just now ended here, the Gallen Kallela Klimt Wien, was curated by me, and I was also making the concept, putting Gallen Kallela, one of our big names in art history, together with the Viennese Secession and Gustav Klimt, and that actually turned out to be the most visited ever thematic exhibition. So people have really found Ateneum since the COVID. I think when we opened the doors after COVID, people are pouring in. So we have had over 500,000 visitors every year since nearly. So it's a lot. And then we have 2 exhibitions per year on the 3rd floor. And the next one will be Eero Nelimarkka, who is a Finnish painter from the modern era. And we usually have like a monography, and then we have a thematic exhibition. So we are like changing these. And well, that's basically it. So we are the biggest art museum in Finland. We also do lots of international operations, exhibitions abroad, as met now. We are now currently also showing Pekka Halonen, one of the big names, an artist in Paris, in Petit Palais, which is sold out. It's also an absolutely huge success. And we recently had Finnish painters from the 19th century in Düsseldorf, and it's going to Twente Museum in the Netherlands next. And well, there's a lot going on. And we are now already planning for the next few years until 2030. So we have kind of the schedule already done until that. So we always work like 5 years before the exhibition starts. So we start planning. So lots of things going on, and people coming in, and it's really great to see how successful and how kind of interesting art and art museums are today in Finland. They really are very kind of people come and they enjoy.
Absolutely. Well, you have to be thinking way far in advance, right, for this kind of thing to come to fruition. So, Anu, thank you so much. Kiitos paljon keskustelusta. Tack för diskussionen. This was a wonderful way to highlight Schjerfbeck and her work and her legacy and connect it to all of the energy we see for Finland around the world, especially in the United States right now. So I want to wish you a hyvää illan jatkoa. I know it's getting late in Finland. I hope you can enjoy the rest of your evening. We hope to collaborate with you again sometime soon. Anu, to Minia, thank you for putting us together and all of the organization, and to all of you for joining us this afternoon or evening. Hope to see you at our next Finnposium, and for now, kiitos and hei.
Kiitos, hei, tack. Hej då.
Hej då.
Thank you.